It's becoming quite the tradition here on Locked On Blue Devils. Before one season officially closes, we've got to go back and do an end-of-year review for our favorite players on the Duke men's basketball team. We get that journey started today with Kyle Filipowski and Jared McCain. Let's dive right in.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with JJ Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It is so great to have you here with us on this Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. As we say every day, we focus a whole lot on the Duke men's basketball team. We got to talk about the end of the season reviews for the Duke basketball team in 2023-2024 before we officially turn the page into next season. We've been following, of course, the transfer portal, the NBA draft declarations, the graduates of this past year's Duke squad, and now it's finally time to go through some reviews. We'll start today with Kyle Filipowski and Jared McCain, and I'll have that conversation, of course, with our good friend Jordan Mann from the Big J and Little J show, who was with us on yesterday's program, back once again. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils. And I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, let's bring him on in. Jordan Mann back with us here for the second straight day. J-Man, what's going on?
Not much, man. Had a little technical difficulties to start, but I'm back, so it's good. Normally you get those out of the way on a Monday, but Monday's episode was crystal clear, so why not throw a wrench in Tuesdays? But I'm happy to be here, brother, and I'm happy to talk more Duke basketball about the end of the year review for these guys. Yeah,
twice in 1 week, and we'll go ahead and spoil it for people. You're going to be back on tomorrow's show as well, so 3 times running. Again, Locked On Blue Devils, wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I got to give a shout out, Jordan, to Raheem Jones, who commented on yesterday's show. My boy JJ and my boy J-Man, keep up the good work. So a shout out directed to you specifically, man. We got to keep up the good work for today's show.
Sounds like a big Cameron Sheffield fan right there.
No doubt.
I appreciate the love. It's always great to come on, and obviously it's always great to hear feedback like that as well.
No doubt. We love the positive words. So comment down below on these YouTube videos. Let us know what you thought about the seasons that these Duke guys had. And Jordan, we'll just kind of dive right in. We're going to talk about Filipowski and McCain both. At the end, we'll kind of talk about what the future looks like for both of those guys. But Kyle Filipowski, we start with him as we look at this past season going into the year. Kyle Filipowski's decision to return for a sophomore season of basketball was a national storyline. Many people talking about it. It's the preseason ACC Player of the Year. It was massive when Duke found out he was coming back for another season.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what goes with being a guy at Duke, especially in day and age where it's one and done at Duke. Obviously, that narrative is shifting with this upcoming season, obviously. But when one and done guy's supposed to leave, he comes back for a second year. It's big news, and then it's big expectations, like you just said. Preseason ACC Player of the Year, and we saw flashes of that. We saw flashes of him being like, hey, this is a guy that could win ACC Player of the Year, but unfortunately, to win ACC Player of the Year, you have to be consistent on a night-in, night-out basis, which we'll dive into. And obviously, there was nights that he struggled and nights that he showed out. And I can't wait to talk about Filipowski as you have the stats right up for me.
Yep, if you're watching on YouTube, we've got some stats listed there for you. 36 games played, 16.4 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, 50% shooting from the floor, 67% shooting from the free throw line. That number is down. He shot 76% from the charity stripe as a freshman and 34.8% shooting from three-point range. Specific to his game going into the season, Duke was looking for another 5 to pair it with Kyle Filipowski. We knew of the visits with Caden Shedrick and Ernest Uday Jr., to name a few, from last season. None of those guys ultimately end up transferring in. And then you've got a year where Kyle Filipowski is expected to play the 5 for the Duke basketball team. What did you think of that? What like, let's refresh people's memories when we were going into last season, kind of thinking about, well, what is this going to look like when there isn't kind of that true five that he had next to him and Derek Lively during Flip's freshman season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Flip played the best he possibly could at the 5, being a natural 4. It wasn't perfect, obviously, and that's probably the one hole, if you want to say there was a hole on this Duke team, was not having a true big, a true 5. And he did the best he could, but obviously you could see in some games, when I talk about the inconsistencies, that fatigue was a factor probably for Filipowski, because he was guarding dudes that he shouldn't have been guarding all game. And so it took his legs out from under him. And you saw those, and you see those a little bit on the shooting splits. But the games where he struggled shooting the ball, you go back and you watch just how physical he was with his post defender, and then him being a post defender as well. And so it's a way different ball game playing the 4 and then playing the 5 in year 2, with the responsibility and expectations, JJ, that you're the AC Player of the Year.
I would encourage people to go back and listen to many of our conversations that you and I had together throughout the course of the season, because J-Man, you were always quick to kind of point out his defense, whereas a lot of people wanted to talk about the scoring numbers, and rightfully so. That's a big adjustment to playing the 5. We were worried about it. You've got Ryan Young kind of behind him in that front court for this Duke basketball team. And there was some talk out there about Kyle Filipowski, being lost or not able to kind of hold his own. And throughout the entire season, you were very quick, Jordan, to point out that all of that is just inaccurate. That's just wrong. Kyle Filipowski was a much better defender than people might think.
Yeah, based off synergy, where it takes away the stats like man-to-man, post defense, perimeter defense, whatever. He graded good, and that was shocking to me as well, because I was going in there with the idea the fans had, and I was very surprised. But then I watched the film, and obviously he had games where he was in foul trouble. There was many games he had 4 fouls and then he fouled out. But the way that he was able to play in the post, the problem with Filipowski, the way he got in foul trouble was just a lazy defense where he just swiped down on a guard out on the perimeter. Didn't need that to happen. But when it became one-on-one, mano-a-mano with his guy, he did pretty well. I mean, DJ Burns obviously scored a lot, and then he scored on everybody. That's why they made that spectacular run to the Final Four, so that's going to happen. But I thought Filipowski did a good job, and the best he could, honestly, like I said, defensively.
All right, let's talk about the shooting numbers. 16.4 points per game over the course of the season, 50% from the floor. I think about that NC State game in the ACC tournament where right underneath the basket, Flip was making anything and everything that he needed, and he had some really, really dominant stretches where he was just going to score down in the post. But the outside shooting numbers are something we talk a lot about, because when you kind of scout and break down the game that Kyle Filipowski plays, it's the outside shot that often catches the eyes of basketball observers. It was just really inconsistent over the course of the whole season, right?
Yeah, he was very inconsistent shooting the ball. It was unfortunate because he had that 3-game stretch where he was 11 of 15 in the season. And then the next 5 games after going 11 for 15, he was 2 of 17 from 3. So that's just how he was all year. He was very hot in that 3-game stretch, and then he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in a 5-game stretch. And it's like, where did that guy go that scored? My phone just closed on me, but scored. It was 4 for 4, 4 for 5, and 3 for 6, I think, from 3 in those 3-game stretches. And then in the 2 of 17, obviously he only hit 1 3 in 2 games and was 0 from the other 3.
Yeah, no, wild to think about those numbers in itself. 39 total 3-point makes on the season for Kyle Filipowski. So 11 of those over those 3 games. That accounts for, about 30% of the total makes he would have from the 3-point line the rest of the season. And that's that's 33 other games where the outside shot just wasn't that big of a factor for what Filipowski was able to do and bring for the Duke basketball team. Before we get over to Jared McCain, and before we kind of look at what's next for Filipowski and that sort of thing, when we review the year that was, we'd be remiss not to talk about the court storming incident that took place in Winston-Salem, the kind of tripping saga once again that we saw at different portions of the year. Let's go 10 years from now, Jordan. If you look back, how do you think we'll kind of remember those moments of Kyle Filipowski's career at Duke?
Put me on the spot there, JJ.
I'm struggling. I'm like, I could see a world where we forget that and you think more of the basketball player he was. I would imagine that whatever he does at the professional game is going to carry a lot into it. Grayson Allen is somebody that in the NBA, everybody is going to put together montages of tough plays that he's had out there on the floor. So that image never really goes away with somebody like Grayson. I'm curious if you think it's that type of trajectory for Kyle Filipowski, or kind of a blimp in the radar the further removed we get from this past year. We're just really not even going to think about that.
I think the further we get away from it, people forget about it. And I don't mean this to sound rude, but there's like with Grayson, he had the tripping incidents that happened a few times in his career, but he was at Duke for 3 or 4 years, won a national championship as a freshman. He was in the spotlight. Filipowski had the expectations, but I would say Filipowski wasn't the best player for Duke. So I think when you reminisce about this season, I think McCain and Roach before Filipowski for the impact of this team. And so with that being said, the further we get away, I think the further we get away from the incident and people will forget. But it will be fun to look back and hear, obviously, the anti-Duke fans of saying, you remember when Filipowski, you had that big number 30 fall and create this chaos at Wake Forest. But, yeah, I don't think it'll be remembered.
Well, here's the other thing, and here's how it could be remembered, is if there – and this is an entirely different conversation I'm not having today in this spot, but just bringing it up. If we do get into a world where there is a massive court storming ban or something like that, I think we'll be more likely to remember it, because people are going to be like, you know what? Well, after Filipowski had his incident in Wake Forest, we saw this big national-wide change and shift in what took place in college basketball games. That's kind of a scenario, I think, where we would be thinking and talking about it much more frequently.
Yeah, that is fair, because what's going to happen is there's going to be an incident. That's a great point. There'll be an incident next season or the year after, and they're going to bring up Caitlin Clark and they're going to bring up Kyle Filipowski, why they should ban court storming, which they shouldn't, but that's going to be the talk of the town. You're going to see that whole replay of him spinning around and getting carried off by his teammates. So that's a great point. I didn't even think about it that way.
7-footers don't belong in traffic like that, Jordan. That's what we're taking away from this. All right, let's take our first break here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. We got to talk about Jared McCain when we come back on the other side of this timeout here today. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data that you need in one place. It's the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we keep this train rolling here on this episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson alongside Jordan Mann. He's got the Big J and Little J show. He's got his own YouTube channel. Tell people about their work. You're here 3 straight days in a row this week, Jordan. If people are like, who the heck is this guy? What do you answer to that?
Yeah,
who are you?
They're also going to be here. They keep coming back, and they're all on me for not releasing this Proctor video. They keep on put out. I swear I will. It'll be soon. But Big J and Little J show, Apple and Spotify. Fun fact, JJ, I got an email last night by Chartable where you can see where your podcast ranked. We peaked at Big J and Little J show number 63 in Canada. So shout out to Canada. So
love that.
Cracked top 150 in Apple for United States, but top 63 in Canada is pretty crazy.
Canada, that's awesome. Yeah. Well done.
I texted Connor. I was like, we might have to move to Toronto.
then the numbers will really go up. Shout out to all the Canadian viewers and listeners there for the Big J and Little J show. All right, let's talk about Jared McCain, the year that he had a freshman on this Duke basketball team. We talk about the recruiting class that Duke had this past season, really not regarded as one of the absolute elite classes that John Shire and Coach K have been able to put together within the last decade. But as the season plays out, it becomes very clear that Jared McCain is the best freshman among them. What were your expectations going into the year for McCain?
He's a shooter. And lights out. And that's all I thought he was. And he surprised me in more ways than that during the season. And he's just a special talent, a great kid. And to be a good basketball player, he's a better kid, and that says a lot about him. I mean, the whole nail saga, like, shout out to our boy Josh Cox when he asked him about, like, the Christmas nails that went mega viral on Twitter. That didn't faze Jared McCain the rest of the season at all. He acted like that didn't affect him. And you see the numbers down there, just a spectacular season.
Yeah, fingernail painting, the TikTok dances. Jared McCain garnered his fair share of haters throughout the course of the season. You were not able to really tell that if you watched him play basketball, because he always had a smile on his face, played every single game this season for Duke, 14.3 points per game, 5 rebounds, 46% shooting from the floor, 88% from the free throw line, and 41.4% from three-point range. A remarkable performance in that James Madison game in the NCAA tournament. That three-point shot was incredible. If we go back, however, to the start of the season, in a lot of ways, that outside shot wasn't that big of a piece of Jared McCain's game. He had inconsistent nights where he wasn't making the shots. And also, I think there was talk about he just didn't look as comfortable or confident. And John Shire talks about, having to remind him, and Jared McCain let us know after the fact that Coach Shire and the coaching staff in general had to remind him, like, you're here for a reason. Take these shots when they're open. And as soon as he kind of reminded himself the type of player that he was, as silly as that sounds, his game really took off again.
No, I mean, that's right, JJ. Look, it's easy to play the game of basketball and be really good, but once you're in your head mentally, you lose focus of that. And you saw that early in the season where Jared was trying to just get a feel for his game and transitioning from high school to college. And he struggled at first. Every freshman hits a wall and hits a learning curve. His just very early in the season. And then, boy, when he figured it out, dude, he figured it out. I mean, how many times did I come on this show? It's like, this kid 10 or more shots a game. And he finished averaging 10.5 shots per game, and that's why he made it to the Elite Eight. And he brought up the James Madison game, but let's talk about the game that everybody will forget in terms of player performance, because Duke lost since he stayed in the Elite Eight, but he had 32 points. The only guy that really showed up for Duke in the last game was Jared McCain, and he was honestly the most consistent guy. He played all 40 minutes in that game too. Just I love this dude's motor, like 5 rebounds a game. He's 6. I know he's listed like 6'3", 6'4". Dude's probably 6'2". But 5 rebounds a game, and he'd have 2 or 3 offensively a game. Like, just a great motor, great shooter, and just an all-around great basketball player for Duke.
Yeah, I'm going to be sure to remember his first half performance that he had in that Florida State game in Tallahassee, where he just could not miss simply and led Duke the entire season in that regard. An athletic driver when he needed to be, not somebody that really plays above the rim, but when he needs to get up and make an athletic play, he showed throughout the course of the season that he was able to do that. And then the rebounding. The rebounding is something that we talked about a whole lot this season. Finished averaging 5 boards a game, but man, he was just giving so much effort on the glass, and given his size, like, wow, he had a really, really impressive rebounding season for Duke.
Yeah, good rebounder, and the most underrated part of his game was finishing around the rim, because Connor and I talked about this on our last show, Big J and Little J show, when I was comparing Sion James with Duke's backcourt this past year. Sion James was 63% around the rim this past season, and you guys have seen what Sion James looks like. It's a tank. He's 6'6", like 215, hasn't missed the weight room since he was 4 months old. But the leading guy for this past season for Duke was Jared McCain at 62%. So he was really efficient around the rim for Duke. And that says a lot for a guy that can shoot the heck out of it from three to also be the best finisher on the team as well.
How are you going to remember Jared McCain? When you look back, let's go 10 years from now once again. How are you going to remember this guy and his time wearing that Duke uniform?
Honestly, I will always remember him separating the fun-loving TikTok and the dog court. He's talking cash. I was in the show. He talked a lot of cash to the opponents, and that just is something that I love to see from a competitor, as he knows when to be the nice guy on TikTok with the nails, but then he also knows when he's at Florida State and he's cooking, he's going to let people hear about it, and that is what I loved about Jared McCain. Yeah,
the smile, I think, is also something people are going to definitely remember, how much he enjoyed the Cameron Crazies when he would make threes, wanting to hear from him and see what he could do for that Duke basketball team. So much fun, and a hell of a freshman season for Duke. One of the best shooting freshman seasons that we've ever seen for a Duke Blue Devil. So a job well done from Jared McCain, and we're certainly going to miss you on this next season's basketball team. All right, Jordan, we got to take one more timeout here on the show, and then when we come back, we'll start to wrap up the chat today. We'll talk a little bit about what's next for both Jared McCain and Kyle Filipowski on the other side of this break. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire, constantly finding ways to make the process easier for you. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. 2.5 million businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Last few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Again, I've got Jordan Mann here with me. You can follow him on X at JMann's Takes. Also check out the Big J and Little J Show wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. JMann_ is the YouTube channel. So let's talk about what's next. Kyle Filipowski and Jared McCain at the end of the season made the decision to declare for the 2024 NBA draft. And about a month from now, we'll find out which teams select them in the first round. We feel pretty certain both of these guys will end up being first-round picks, right?
Yeah, I honestly think Jared McCain will be picked before Filipowski. Before the season, Filipowski was the lottery pick, like a for sure lottery pick, but I think he's going to slip into the early 20s with how things look. And I think McCain could probably sneak into the lottery. But, yeah, I think they'll both be mid-first-round picks, which is, hey, guaranteed money, good money.
What type of player is Kyle Filipowski going to be at the next level?
That's a tough question. Because when I made a comparison for this Duke team, I was trying to get a filler for the comparable guys. Team I compared this Duke team to was 2015 Wisconsin during the season. And so I labeled Filipowski Frank Kaminsky. Obviously, Frank Kaminsky was a 4-year guy at Wisconsin. Filipowski, a 2-year guy at Duke. Kaminsky shoot the three a little bit better than Filipowski, but he's just got if he can figure out that 3-point shot, JJ, he'll be in the league for at least 2 full contract, like a rookie deal and the next contract extension. If he does not figure out that 3-point shot, then it's going to be, I'm not sure. He could be a short stint after the rookie deal, but hopefully he can figure out the 3-point shot, and I think he can have a successful career.
So let's go back to Jared McCain. What type of player, what type of career do you think Jared McCain can have at the NBA level?
when you can shoot the ball, man, you can last in the NBA a little bit longer than people that cannot shoot the ball. His defense is where he's got to improve on. There's a lot of times at Duke where he gave up a lot of straight line drives on the perimeter. He just needs to clean that up at the next level. But look, like I said, that type of guy that can shoot the ball is going to be tough to sit because he can give you 9 points on 3 shots quickly.
I love it. I'm excited to see Jared McCain. I think he's going to be a heck of a player at the next level. Going to be rooting for him with whatever team makes the wise decision to draft him. I'm excited to see the team that drafts Kyle Filipowski as well. I think they'll ultimately make a good decision in doing that themselves. Jordan, this was awesome. We've got more episodes coming up together, you and I, but thanks for being here to officially kick off the 2023-2024 Duke basketball end-of-year reviews for the players on the roster. You're the man, Jordan. Thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate it, brother. I'm looking forward to episode 3 this week.
Let's do it. Coming up tomorrow. Jordan Mann will be back with us. We'll be talking a little bit more about some players. Let's talk Mark Mitchell and Jeremy Roach on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. That's going to do it for the show here today. Comment down below. What did you think of the year that Kyle Filipowski and Jared McCain had for the Duke Blue Devils? Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave us a 5-star rating and written review. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you, and good day.